All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, the YouTube viewers. Hello, those of you in the Discord. Good to see you both. What I'm going to be doing today is not really doing questions and this kind of thing. Hello, everybody. I see you guys typing in the Discord. Today, I'm going to do a story writing lecture based on some cool stuff I have been learning super recently. And that's what we're going to do today. I've got some cool stuff to discuss in terms of conscious and unconscious mind, in terms of the purpose of writing. Today's story writing lecture is very simple. It is why write stories. Right? If you're not selling, you have no idea if that's going to happen. You don't know if, this career is going to work out or that career is going to work out. Why write stories? What's the purpose of writing one no matter what, right? Why do it? So I'm going to start today by reading a little bit about the unconscious and the conscious and the unconscious mind. This is going to be today's big topic. Conscious mind. I'm actually going to do this. Unconscious mind down here. Conscious mind up here. So first, let's kind of discuss what these two big terms mean, right? Conscious mind, unconscious mind. So, screenwriter Dan Harmon, somebody I've mentioned many times, he wrote some articles about this idea when he was talking about story structure, story circles, something I talk about a lot on this channel. But I want to specifically discuss for a moment this idea about the unconscious and the conscious mind. So what you have, let me find. Okay, so here's what I want to. What we have is we have this conscious day-to-day experience. We do things like consciously create, speak words, write, right? So if you think about your mind, what's one of the most conscious things you can possibly do, right? You are being very present in this moment about what's going on. You are writing. You are essentially making concrete thought, right? So we think with our conscious mind, right? We're having thoughts now in the present that we are aware of. And when we're writing, we're pushing that into the concrete world, right? Of like a story, a book, where now those thoughts are kind of in the ground. On the other side, you're thinking about the basement of your mind or the strange part of your mind where things are kind of murky and you're more connected to nature. You have your suppressed memories, feelings, senses of places that you didn't consciously take in, right? We're taking in all of this unconscious information all of the time. And this is what Carl Jung was talking about in a lot of his work. Carl Jung was a psychologist and psychiatrist, and he worked very closely with Sigmund Freud, who did the same thing. And both of them, this is a quote from Joseph Campbell, both Freud and Jung were well aware that the dream realm was not random, but attached directly to the symbols inside your unconscious mind. Sometimes it is trying to show you something, sometimes you can direct it. So that was Joseph Campbell discussing that. Carl Jung, in his book, Man and His Symbols, let me pull this up. So it is this book here, Man and His Symbols. I'm taking some direct quotes today from this book, Man and His Symbols. So in this book, There is a few quotes I'm just going to read here. I've kind of been working on course material, and I'm showing you guys that. I hope that's fun. So some notes I took about Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols this morning. Specifically, man produces symbols unconsciously in the form of dreams. We also produce symbols in our conscious mind, right? In our thoughts and in our writings. You produce symbols, right? You produce ideas, concepts, these sorts of things, right? You're not always sure of what a symbol's meaning is, but you produce them in your thought, you produce them in your writing. What Carl Jung is saying is that you also produce them in your dreams. He says on page 5 of Man and His Symbols, there are certain events of which we have not consciously taken note, but they have remained, so to speak, below the threshold of consciousness. They have happened, but they have been absorbed subliminally without our conscious knowledge, right? So your attention is only directed at a certain place, but you're also feeling events as they happen in a variety of ways. And his argument is that dreams, page 8 of Man and His Symbols, dreams are the most frequent and universally accessible source for the investigation of man's symbolizing faculty. He also says Sigmund Freud was the pioneer who first tried to explore empirically that unconscious background of consciousness. He worked on the general assumption that dreams are not a matter of chance, but are associated conscious thoughts and problems. Okay, so this is very important. So dreams, if this is a scale, right, more conscious mind this way, deeper into the unconscious mind this way, these are our extremes. Very conscious, like writing, like thought, like outlining, right? You might even say outlining's up here, right? Very conscious brain thing to do. Essay writing. Deep below that you can't access easily, so your suppressed memories, your suppressed feelings, all of this, and then your dreams are right above here, right? Dreams carry symbols in them. Symbols that your unconscious creates. And those symbols have meaning attached to them that is directly attached to you, directly attached to your lived experiences. Carl Jung on page 9 says, before the beginning of this century, Freud and Joseph Breuer had recognized that neurotic symptoms, hysteria, certain types of pain, and abnormal behavior are in fact symbolically meaningful. They are one way in which the unconscious mind expresses itself, just as it may in dreams. They are equally symbolic. So what is he saying here? Hysteria, certain types of pain, and abnormal behavior. So now he's talking about more conscious mind stuff. Actions, right, are symbolically meaningful. This is one way in which the unconscious mind expresses itself. Ailments, dis-ease. A patient, for instance, who is confronted with an intolerable situation may develop a spasm whenever he tries to swallow. Why? Because he, quote unquote, can't swallow it. He can't swallow his life situation. He is in a story. And an ailment of his is directly attached to something happening to him in his conscious world. Freud made the simple but penetrating observation that if a dreamer is encouraged to go on talking about his dream images and the thoughts that these prompt in his mind, he will give himself away and reveal the unconscious background of his ailments. Okay. All that to say, I'm arguing that dreams have important symbols in them to you, right? Your human experience has all this depth into it, right? Of symbols you're sort of carrying around, right? Your the pattern recognition of your spirit or of your brain, let's say. At the center point between these two things, right? Where do these meet? I would argue that they meet at your story. Your screenplay, your novel, your graphic novel, your short script, right? If it is meaningful to you, then it ends up being here. Why? Okay. This conscious mind stuff like essay writing, let's say, outlining. You could even say something like counseling, because what's happening is you're getting asked super direct questions. And how did that make you feel, right? It's super in your face. So it's conscious mind. It's like it is beckoning forth your conscious mind. But then more this way is deeper into your mind, your suppressed memories, your suppressed feelings, your dreams. And at the center, what happens is part of the reason that a first draft is never bad is that when you write a first draft, you are bringing story symbols forward. Okay. The most important story symbol, most of the time, is the fact that you are almost always, 95% of the time, your main character. Like, it is you. It is an absolute reflection of who you are, right? Because this is your writing. That's how it works. Sometimes people write themselves as the villain. The more broad you get, though, the more you can see yourself as all of the characters, right? That's really how that expansion of personal awareness creates a story of more depth, because you go from single-celled organism, I'm only thinking about the protagonist, to I can see all characters' perspectives, and now I have this larger story. But you make story symbols when you write, unconsciously. So if you write a scene and you have a first draft, and that first draft is, let's say it's 78 scenes, right? You have already made so many decisions about that story by writing 78 scenes about them, no matter how good the structure is, no matter how that's all working, you have made all of these decisions. And so then, a lot of the times when I'm reading someone's work for the first time, yes, I'm looking at it from how do we make this clearer? But fundamentally, what I'm looking for is what kind of story symbols are they going after? And how do we start to, let's say, intellectualize some of those symbols for the conscious mind use of outlining and clarifying that story, right? Because what's coming out of your subconscious mind is always, let's say, I don't think messy is the right word, more like the enigma of the depths of who you are, right? There's I don't know if I wrote it down in here, but there is a quote in that book from Carl Jung where he is saying that a symbol, he was talking about the difference between a sign and a symbol. And I thought it was poignant, because a symbol, he says, reaches into your unconscious mind. Like it comes from, it's not just from you. It's like from something else. Right? Your unconscious mind welling up. And also, like a cross is a symbol, right? It is connected to you, but it is connected to so many other things, right? It's symbolic and enigmatic without just your perspective. Maybe that's a little too much. I don't know. Whereas a sign is like DEA. It's like it only means another symbol. Anyways, I don't want to get into all that. I'm trying to keep things on track. Hope you guys are enjoying as I'm going through this. So, let me pull this over here again. So, yeah, a story is like a dream, right? Even a first draft, right? With no good structure and all this, a story is a more conscious dream. It's a dream you're having while you're awake. And if you can be aware of what that means, if you can be aware of the kind of symbolism and ideas that your unconscious mind is leaning towards and bringing you, then you can use that to make something that's more and more clear, right? More and more integrated, right? So the idea is this line is a very important line because it kind of represents the split in your own mind. So if I backed up here, went like this. Let's go story circle kind of dealio here. Boom. This is your conscious. This is your unconscious. And it might even be best to say like this bottom sort of goes down into the depths and you can't find where it leads, right? And then you kind of have the box of safety up here. So you're trying to integrate this line in the middle. The more split you are, the more your life is full of anxiety, frustration, these sorts of things. The more integrated you are, right, the more at that line, the more things start to make sense for you and the more it's easier for you to live in the present. So what's happening in a story is that, so in a positive character arc, you essentially have a character who, let's say, conscious up here, unconscious down here. So in a positive character arc, let me zoom in a little bit. Your character has a ghost deep in their unconscious. Maybe they're aware of it, they probably aren't totally. But what's happening is the ghost is an event that created a belief. You were told something, one thing that happens all the time is you are told a fact by an authority, right? Somebody told you something about yourself and now you believe that thing, right? And if you trust someone, if they have authority in your life, then you have a higher likelihood of believing what they tell you. And then that can become your ghost. Or you can be told something, or something can happen, right? This can also be an action, but it is an event. And so then the positive character arc is essentially that character's conscious mind having to go down, find that ghost, realize the belief that is connected to that ghost, and then come back up having changed, right? How have they changed? They have released themselves from a particular belief. And so one might describe a existential crisis as somebody having all these bad beliefs sitting down here in their unconscious mind, like eating them alive. It's like, oh wow, they've got all these lies, like this, down in their unconscious. And their conscious mind keeps those suppressed. Their conscious mind doesn't want to deal with those things. So it shoves them all down into the basement like Dan Harmon talks about. Tells them to be quiet. We're not going to handle you. So these become all these, lies, all these beliefs. And then an existential crisis is something happens where all this stuff comes up all at once. It's all connected to one core thing, and then zoom, someone breaks down and, has a psychic break, or, they have their moment of integration, ideally, right? That's how that works. Because the lies and the beliefs manifest as conscious choices, which are the actions that we take, right? And so then this is just hurting the choices until the beliefs are dealt with. And these come in the form of ghosts, right? It's not just, I believe I'm worthless. It's like, okay, no, it's because someone told me that, or someone left me, or someone hurt me, or someone like this, and now I have this belief. And those beliefs can come in all sorts of forms. So that, and so then a negative character arc is a character who has no ghost, right? You might even say they are an integrated person, at least for the purposes of this story, right? They have integrated the two sides. There is no splits created by the conscious mind that split the unconscious. And this is kind of the key. This is it is what Jung and Freud understood, and also Joseph Campbell, he wrote Hero with a Thousand Faces, Hero's Journey, this kind of stuff, is that things that we do in the present or in the conscious mind have a direct effect on what sits in the unconscious and then manifests as strange things, right? Like a sickness or a bad dream or these other pieces, right? But it starts up here because we take in experience through the present and then it stores like memory in the unconscious and then comes back up in different ways. And so it's why it can be good to like study your own dreams, because your dreams hold symbolism in them. Your dreams are holding an element of your experience, or an element, something that your unconscious or subconscious mind is dwelling on. And recognizing that, bringing that to your conscious awareness, helps you integrate the two sides of yourself. The unconscious mind, the things you have not dealt with, and the conscious mind, your sort of conscious experience, your feeling of the anxiety or being persecuted by the lower, the unconscious mind, that kind of thing. And again, it doesn't have to be like persecution. It's just when you are separated, you're going to be more anxious. You're going to feel more split. But then when you come to this middle line, you feel more together. And again, this is why I'm saying a story. Why write stories is what we're talking about today. A story is the integration of your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. It is showing you what your mind dwells on, what its vision is, both consciously and unconsciously. Because what I see when I'm reading people's screenplays is they are making choices because they have to fill pages, which therefore leaves that choice more and more to their unconscious mind, which is good, because then their unconscious mind brings forth ideas about characters and places and decisions and scenes and all of this. And this shows who that person is. It shows what that person thinks about how they see the world. Every screenplay is very different in that way. I feel like there is this public sense of scripts all kind of feel the same way. They look very similar, but scripts very, very much feel different from writer to writer, even though there is so much quote-unquote limitation in the format. So why should you write your story? Because no matter if you sell that story, no matter if you become rich and famous, hey, I hope you do. Make it happen. But ultimately, you are integrating your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. It is showing you the things that your mind dwells on. It is showing you the points of work, the points of integration, the things that you must deal with emotionally, let's say, and bring those two sides together. And so a way that you can do that is writing. And it's a very helpful way. This also, I think, shows again the clear and obvious complexity of nature and the world, and how our world is created. And it is this symbolic, like, symbols are the language of life. Dreams have symbols. Your thoughts have symbols. Your writing has symbols. Symbols exist both inside the bounds of what people have made and also outside the bounds of what people have made in a strange way, right? That's why they're connected to our unconscious mind. Whereas you might say, like, a sign is only human created. Okay, so this is an earlier drawing I did that's a little just clearer. I'm going to show this to you guys. So you could map it super simply like this if you just wrote it out. So your most conscious, the most sort of left brain, I'm creating this thing, is writing. Then behind that is thought, right? Writing is concrete thought. Thought is more in your mind, abstract, ethereal. Or probably story writing would go like here then. But it's more fun to put it in the center. I think it's a better, but thought kind of is also down here, right? You have thoughts that are yours, and then you also have unconscious thoughts that well up. And of course that is a key thing that's a whole thing on its own. Then you have dreams, and then sort of your like deepest layers that you can't access except through like thoughts and dreams, like these suppressed memories, emotions, vibrations, these kinds of things. Then you get into the most unconscious part of your brain. So then in a way you could view it this way. Most conscious, writing, organized thought, thought made concrete, thought, which is in our conscious mind, but not totally clear. Story writing combines writing with unconscious imagination, symbols, and feelings. Dreams are symbolic mental journeys bubbling up from below, and in the deepest point we have our suppressed memories, our feelings, our vibes, the important things we don't want to think about. And then these things kind of can fuel together. And I believe story writing as a very strong way of this mental integration. Because if you're just in a, let's say, counseling session, you're not ever doing any of the writing, and you're also being asked super direct questions. You know, how did that make you feel? It's like you don't. Same thing with what Carl Jung was doing. Is like you have to let people tell you what's actually going on. They find it by talking about it in less of such an indirect way, I feel. A story is kind of a way of holding the thought in paper between you. I don't know if that made any sense, but and so the reason that this works this way, especially down here when I was talking about positive character arc, negative character arc, all this kind of stuff, this is because this is how it works in real life. Okay? So in real life, you gain a ghost. Something happens to you. Somebody hurts you. You hurt somebody else. Now you have a ghost. Now you have to view it from an Eastern context. Now you have a karmic debt that you are now carrying, right? You have been injured or you have injured another, and now this lives in your spirit. It lives in your unconscious, ready to well up and bother you over and over again until it is dealt with. Now you have a ghost. Now, I talk about that ghost from the most conscious mind side first when I talk about philosophy and philosophical conflict. That is the most conscious brain, left brain, analyzer brain way to say that. But it is ultimately your connection to life, to spirit, to symbols, all of this. This is why, but organizing it into beliefs that you can write on paper, this allows you to make it clearer in your own mind and then more malleable. Then you can write a story. But this is how it works, right? You have stuff going on in your deep depths. And most people feel this. That's what's happening. But this is finite. I think people act like this is just a thing that you never make any progress in. Like, you actually change when you release lies, when you release these ghosts or these little sort of tumor elements. You are raising your own energy. You are becoming more present. You are becoming more aware of the breath of life. Your vibration is raising. And this is what can happen in a story, and this is what happens in real life. Now, this is where the whole idea of awareness comes into play, because you can be doing great and pushing all these things out, and then others coming in, right? New problems coming in. And of course that happens, but ideally, part of it is when new problems come in, the amount of time they have been there matters, right? So it's like if you're able to deal with personal stuff that you've been carrying around for 15 years, 20 years, longer, and you release yourself from those ghosts, you release yourself from those lies, then if a new one comes in and it's only been there a month, it doesn't really hurt you in the same way, right? Like, you are free of the deep stuff. Being free of that, of your sort of deep pains that you're carrying around. That's the purpose of counseling. It's the purpose of a good story. It's the purpose of catharsis. It's that feeling when somebody says something you feel like you always needed to be put into words, but you didn't find the words, and then somebody found them for you. And a lot of times you have to find them yourself. You have to write your story. And you have to be aware of your current life, right? Okay. Now to continue the hype train. We got this whole concept here, right? My prettier version is nicer. Let me clean this up a bit. Right, conscious mind, writing, thoughts, unconscious mind, dreams, suppressed feelings, emotions, memories, ghosts. We're trying to meet in the middle. What is this middle point? How do we meet in the middle? This is where choice happens. Choice forces a meeting. Right? You want to stay separate. Our natural inclination is to stay separated. We don't want to deal with the problem. We'll just push that on. We're going to do something else. Let that problem be over there. And so then it sits in our unconscious mind and it festers and festers and festers and festers, right? As this ghost, as this lie, as this negative belief, right? As this story symbol, whatever you want to call it, that is a part of the journey. And ultimately it comes down to, for this thing to move up, how does it come into the conscious mind so it can be dealt with? It comes in through a choice. This is why a climax is important. This is why the Lord of the Rings climax works. What's happening in that choice? Frodo has to throw the ring in the fire. It's to give up the ring of power. That's the mission, right? The whole time the mission is conscious mind. We're going to Mordor to throw this up, right? We're going to destroy the ring. And what has not been dealt with is Frodo's attachment to that ring, right? So there has been this unconscious connection growing in his mind, the symbol of his connection to the ring, his love for the ring. So now, what brings the two things together? A moment of choice. This is what brings will you marry me? It's a moment of choice. And that couple's relationship, they have all their stuff going on and their baggage and their this and their likes about that person and dislikes about that person, all this stuff going on, and boom, now there's a moment. Are we doing this or not? Choice is now bringing the conscious mind and the unconscious mind together, because the choice exists in the conscious mind. You can't really make a choice out of your unconscious mind, right? That's not the choice machine, right? You might even say that your conscious mind is your awareness/choice machine, your ability to choose a conscious direction. And so for the unconscious mind to come up, it must come up through choice. And that's what a story is showing. Frodo has to give up the ring. Can he do it? The ring is mine. No! This is also why at the end of Star Wars Episode 5, Darth Vader offers Luke to join him. Why? Because I'm your father, right? We've got a really complicated relationship here that you don't understand fully, and all kinds of stuff's been going on. But son, join me right now. Let's make a decision together and we'll figure out the conscious mind stuff as we go. I'll never join you, right? Also, that's how it becomes emotional, right? The emotion comes up through the unconscious mind, right? Like you're not consciously, I mean, you could, I guess, consciously cry, but you're not really trying to. It's like something that happens, it bubbles up, right? So like when a actor is delivering a powerful performance, it's like, what is the bubbling up of their unconscious emotion in that scene? There is a There Will Be Blood scene that I really like, that's super subtle and simple. Let me find this. Okay. Sorry.
There's that house in Fond du Lac that John Hollister built. Do you remember it? I thought as a boy that was the most beautiful house I'd ever seen. I wanted it. I wanted to live in it. And eat in it. And clean it. And even as a boy, I wanted to have children to run around in it.
You can have anything you like now, Daniel. And you should. Where are you gonna build it?
Here, maybe, near the ocean.
Would you make it look like that house?
I think if I saw that house now, it'd make me sick.
We can eat and get some women.
Take him to the Peachtree Dance. I say get liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dance.
Yeah.
So the reason I like this scene is Daniel Day-Lewis is realizing this man is not his brother here. And it is this unconscious welling of emotion that's coming up, right? Right? He has these feelings connected because this is his brother. Or he believes this man is his brother, right? So there's memories and feelings connected to that, right? We're going to take him to the Peachtree Dance. We're going to get liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dance. You remember the Peachtree Dance, right? You are my brother, right? Then when he does not know about the dance, now we can see written on his face this, he's dealing with this unconscious energy that is welled up in him, right? His emotional energy. Because now a choice has presented itself that he will have to make soon. Does he make that choice in the scene? No. Although he does make one choice, which is to walk away. So he does make a choice, a small choice. So already here, he is making the choice. This man is not my brother. I can feel it. I know it. I am choosing to walk away from him in this single moment. Now, I cannot walk away from him totally and completely in the larger sense of life, because that's not how human beings work. 9 times out of 10, if you are being like people, it takes time to make some of these big decisions, right? You don't just, oh, I think you're not my brother. No, I'm gonna kick you out now. No, it's then we get back, then they talk, then he's got to think about it. Then he pulls the trigger. But you also give him the choice in the immediate scene. You show the character he chooses to walk away right here. So we see already what's happening. We see what he's going to do. Hollywood is so good at this. They crush this game. They are the only ones that do this game. Like, they're excellent at this type of stuff, right? So now we're showing a choice. He's making this big choice. There's been a relationship change with this character that is condensed all the way to a single point of a character walking into water. We're watching him leave his brother and walk into water. It is a symbol. The whole shot, the shot you're looking at is a symbol. One man in the light, one man in the dark. He leaves his brother. It's like, I mean, it's just a lot of work goes into making movies. A lot of work. An extraordinary amount of work goes into making movies. So that's what's going on. And that's why you write a story, and it doesn't matter if you're going to be like a big Hollywood person. And that's not the point. And right now, if you wanted to start that journey, it would take you a decade minimum. So just make stories and integrate your own self, right? That's what your first drafts are. Look at the last story you wrote, or the one that you are most interested in. I guarantee it's an autobiographical story about you with a skin on it of the story symbols, right? It's not about me. It's in a fantasy land. Bro, it's just the skin you chose. But fundamentally, it's a symbolic journey that's about you because you're on your own journey because life is meaningful, which is more obvious if you study storytelling and is even more obvious if you study other people's writing and look at it a lot. Because you see all these unconscious mind symbols welling up in that story that have clear and obvious patterns to what they say consciously is the theme they want to discuss, why they want to tell this story, a real life thing that happened to them, and now they're integrating that real life thing into their story, right? It's all connected. And then the fact that that even can occur, like the fact that you could even write a story with obvious symbolic clarity, and then dreams have their own symbol language that you can interpret if you actually reflect on your dreams, right? Why did I have that dream right now? What caused me to reflect in this manner in my dream? Let me write that dream down and see if there is a story in that dream. So this is also why people say like, well, isn't a story like whatever you want it to be? It's like, no, it's not. But it does trail off into unconscious mind story symbol land in the similar way that a dream does. But that doesn't mean it's a dream. It's a thing that you can construct in your conscious mind. But it is similar to a dream. It is, in my opinion, the best way to understand yourself. Writing stories has taught me personally way more than trying to do like a counseling session or speaking to a therapist or these other things. Like, most of those things take so long and are so, that can be helpful for people. So I'm not going to like sit here and crap on counseling. But it's way faster to read someone's story. Counselors should start by telling somebody, write a 100-page story about whatever you want it to be. No structures, do what you want. And that would tell them so much about that person's mind, so much faster than sitting here benignly asking them, and how did that make you feel for 72 sessions? And so, again, in your own life, the reason that this is how a scene works, choice is how a scene works, choice is how your life works, right? The choices that you make define your reality. You must understand that. The sooner you understand it, the better your life will become. The more sort of behind the wheel you can be with your own present awareness, and the less you can be controlled by the unconscious mind. Right? The goal is not to be like, oh, I integrate my unconscious so that I am nothing. The goal is, no, I let go so I can just naturally do what my conscious mind knows is the correct thing. That might not make sense. But choice is the driver of life. You know? And you can fixate on the choices that other people have made and talk about how those choices are just such a big deal and like have caused all of your problems and blah, 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 blah. And that's totally up to you. And you might be the victim of that, sure. But you are only further victimizing yourself by continuing to think about their choices and not about your own choices. The more you can think about your choices, well, then suddenly your life gets better. But thinking about the choices of other people doesn't actually make your life better. So you have to focus on your own choices and how to make better ones. Not only for yourself, but everyone else. Your story. Your choice. So that's why I write a story. You know? That is the reason. And that's what you are doing, even if you're not conscious of it. I'm writing this story so I can sell it to a studio. Excellent. That's great. I hope you do. But you're ultimately writing an integration of your unconscious and conscious mind. You are engaging in that exercise. And you can keep your mind over on this idea over here that is not what we're doing right now, of like, you know, career, selling, right, producing. I hope you do all these things and you have a beautiful, lovely time, and it's the most wonderful thing in the universe. And also try to integrate these sides by understanding the story that you're telling. My story doesn't have to be meaningful. No, it is meaningful even if you don't think it is. It's going to be meaningful because that is the nature of life. It is the nature of the human experience you're having. Patterns and symbols, and recognizing the connectivity of what we are inside of. This universe, the one verse, God's creation, the place of life. You can be less aware of that or more aware of that. That is your prerogative. You can believe you're not writing something meaningful, or you can know and have the obvious awareness that you are writing something meaningful, because just from a quote unquote, let's say, biological perspective or our physical experience, dreams do have clear symbolism. If you actually look at your own dreams, you take that seriously, you will see symbolism. I guarantee it. And you feel the symbolism. That's how you know it is the truth, because you feel it in your emotions. When you're in a dream, you have a feeling that's attached to the symbols that you're experiencing in that dream. Meaning produces emotion, Robert McKee. And so you have more important dreams and less important dreams, right? Dreams that you wake up at 5 a.m. and whoa, and you're in a cold sweat and like you just had an important dream. Probably write that one down and ponder on it. Or a dream when you wake up and you just feel weird and you just went on this strange journey. Probably write that one down. If you wake up with this emotion attached to this symbolic, you know, a dream is a story without structure. Right? People are like, does my story need structure? I mean, you're just writing a dream. Like, the less structure it has, the more dreamlike it is. And if you, again, are aware of that, well, then you can build a certain structure to that and say, okay, I'm writing this like a dream, but it still needs to make sense. Because dreams do make sense. They have their own symbolic meaning. They have a language to how they're sort of cut together, quote unquote. Which is why a film is such an interesting way to tell a story, because it is so dreamlike, right? We cut from place to place, interaction to interaction, location to location. We have this emotional journey that is separate from the full bounds of time of going to scene to scene and location to location. So we're in a meaningful mental reality. That is the most, like, Rene Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," right? He said that he can be certain of his own existence because he can think. I think that's pretty sound logic. I think, therefore I am. There is some clear awareness to me because I have the ability to think. You can take that further, and you can say, there is a mapped meaning in the universe because of the because of the symbols I experience in my dreams and in real life and in the stories I create. Like, it's something that is both human created and nature created. It sits in this strange kind of middle ground, like a cross. I think that's... That's what I've got today. That is what we are going to end on. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this has clearly answered the question, why write stories? Once again, you're writing a story because you are integrating your unconscious mind with your conscious mind. Taking those two sides of yourself, two halves of your brain, your spirit and your body, whatever you want. Like, there's multiple angles to that. You're bringing those things together through your story, through writing your story, through understanding choice. Understanding that a scene is a moment where the unconscious mind and the conscious mind are brought together because there's an important choice that must be made. And that's why the scene becomes emotional, because there's an important choice that must be made. There's a bringing together of the two sides of the mind. Frodo has to give up the Ring of Power. Can he let go of the unconscious hold it has on him? Becomes the dramatic question. So no matter what, whether you've got this idea of, agents and managers all around the place, you could sell them, cool. Or if you feel like you're by yourself, writing a story that you enjoy, but you're not quite sure why it matters. It matters. It matters to you. It matters to the clarity that you can bring to your own conscious mind. Writing is organized thought. Stories are organized dreams. Something like that. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for hopping in.